I'm Alice.
And I'm Brett.
And this is the Prosecutor's Legal Briefs. Welcome back to the Prosecutor's Legal Briefs. I'm your host, Alice, and I'm joined, as always, by my questionable co-host, Brett.
Oh, yeah, that's right, Alice. Truth is out. Truth is out.
I am so glad you are my co-host, but you are questionable in the sense of you are able to be asked questions of, and guess what? Today, you guys have been so patient with us. We have not done one of these Q&As I think in over a year because it was around Murdaugh. And I remember it was before I had a baby. So like life has changed since then, but we are back, baby.
That's right. We're back. We've been doing so many lives, but not these question and answer ones. And they're always so much fun. So we wanted to do it. Plus, it's really easy for us because we just sit here and listen to you guys. This is when y'all get to talk. We're just,
I'm gonna take a nap.
Y'all are the stars of this one. Yeah. So I hope we've already got some people in the queue who are ready to go. Hopefully more people will join. Alice, I think we should just go ahead and get started. What do you think?
Let's get started. No one wants to hear from us. Let's have our first.
Okay.
First person.
Adele. Love your music. Hi.
Hi, Adele. Thanks for joining us. You might be on mute, Adele.
It looks like she's on. We should be able to hear her. Say something. Oh, maybe you're on mute. You're not on mute on our side.
Use the microphone. So while you're figuring it out, don't worry, Adele. You take your time, girl. Those of you who on the side are like, let's get on a Teams chat or a Teams video. No, it's too much like work. But do you guys have this problem? Every time I change Zoom.
So Alice is talking. Adele, it says I can't unmute you because you have chosen to mute yourself.
Can you say something? It's okay. Keep talking. Oh, okay. Let me try this. This happens to me all the time, Adele. Check your microphone input. Make sure it's your computer's and that it's not some headphone.
Yeah, and I think your computer may be muted. I'm going to go ahead and remove Adele while she deals with her technical difficulties.
Don't worry, Adele. We'll come back to you.
We'll come back to you. We got Paige.
Oh, someone is ready for the owl.
I love it.
Paige
I love it.
Owl.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Hi, Paige.
We're doing well. How are you?
Good. So my Face ID on my iPhone was not recognizing it when I was trying to look up things on my phone. So I was like, what's the problem?
Well, I love the look. I love the look.
It's quite hot in here. This is Florida, so it's not cooled down enough where I am to wear something like this quite yet. But anyways, so as I mentioned briefly to Brett earlier, I thought that tonight was the Halloween thing, so I didn't really have a whole lot of preparation for it. But I bought this last year right after becoming a Patreon for one of your Get Vocals, and I ordered it on Amazon like just in the nick of time, like just to get it here in the 24, 48 hours. And so I wore it a while ago, and I've been so bummed y'all haven't done any like Get Vocals or like type things because I wanted to wear it, but it's perfect because it's Halloween again. And I'm probably just going to take it off because it's really good.
Paige, I'm so sorry you've waited like almost a year to wear that, but that is an awesome mask.
Should have brought it to CrimeCon. You could have worn it around.
That is true, actually. I don't know why I didn't think of that.
Yeah, that would have been hot though, because it was pretty hot at CrimeCon.
Ooh, yeah, also true. All right, so my questions are, once again, like I said, I'm just kind of went through my old notes, and so one, I guess I kind of came up with this somewhat alternate theory of the Caylee Anthony case.
Okay.
It's basically, it's not really new, but you guys touched on a little bit the whole Zanny the nanny, meaning like her use of Xanax to keep her sedated to, allow her to have more fun. And I thought, the hole in that theory, if I remember correctly, was kind of like, I'm trying to remember. So my theory basically is that it wasn't so much that she was actually had used Xanax on her that day, but more so that it would be in her system over the days before her death. And so when either an accident or an intentional death like strangulation happened, she was so worried about not being able to play it off with the cops because she knew that an autopsy would probably happen and see the Xanax in the system. And so I truly believe that George probably wasn't involved at all. And that she freaked out. She'd made those phone calls thinking that someone would help her, and she obviously got no answer. And then, but the main reason, her main fear was potentially just the fact that she had been drugging her child for so long. Like, even if it was a pool accident, or, maybe she got mad at her and did something bad. But yeah, so that's something I thought of when I was re-listening to that not too long ago.
That's an interesting theory because, the problem we said with the Xanax is she probably was dead before, the afternoon, right? Like even, and so it'd be weird for her to give her Xanax that early, but that's an interesting thought that she actually had given her Xanax recently and she knew it would still be in her system. That's an interesting thought. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the night before. I mean, I don't know what she was doing the night before. But yeah, I thought that same thing about you said, like, cause Kaylee was seen that morning, and, whether or not she was drugged at that point, who knows? That's subjective, but it wouldn't make sense, right? Like, logically, the whole point, ideally, to drug someone like that or a child would be to like have your freedom at night when you're going to the club. So that was just something I had thought of.
It also explains why, if it's an accident, you would hide the body. Because one thing we kept saying is, if it's an accident, why would you hide the body? Just call the police, say it was an accident. But that's a pretty,
and along with that page, it might not even be the night before, but like Casey may not know what the half-life is of Xanax, right? Except all we know is, like, when you're drug tested for work, it could be days. That's all we know, like whether it's whatever type of drug you're doing. And so it could have been from days ago, and she just doesn't really know the half-life, and like what's done is done. But you could get in more trouble for something else. And it fits with what we always say. People lie, like tell really big lies sometimes for seemingly much smaller. Like, they would get in much less trouble if they just told the truth about something else.
And it snowballs. Yeah. I mean, like, the duct tape is such a huge factor in this case. And I always wondered, like, how, if this is, I mean, you guys obviously postulated this as well, but like, how is it possible to go from an accident and be so dumb, essentially, to go as far as duct taping your child? And I think it's because there is some culpability on her. And I mean, here's the thing. She may have just straight up murdered her and strangled her as well. And that could be absolutely what happened. And then she tried to hide it off as a, stranger murder with duct tape and all of that in the woods. Not discounting that. But I think that if you want to give her some type of grace, it's that, she really didn't try to murder her, but she's freaking out over this other thing. So that was just something that came up to mind.
That's the best accident theory I've heard. So.
So the other thing on Michael Peterson, just stuck with me, and I had it in my notes from like a year ago. And so once again, had no preparation for this. So I just went back through my notes, was the whole owl theory with not just the theory itself, because there's a couple different things going on there, but the feathers, the microscopic talon feathers. I don't know, maybe it's because I grew up, I had a pool growing up. We weren't very wealthy, but we had a little land, little pool, and there was just a ton of foliage around, and the pool chairs just had collected just about every type of bird. Yeah.
Matter.
These feathers, I mean, just everything. And so to me, you're out celebrating, quote unquote, with your husband, you're laying by the pool. And just to me, like, having hair, and, I know it was found in the hair in her hands, right? Was it, or the hair on her head? I can't remember, but either way.
In her hands. Been a while, but that's my recollection. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. To me, and I'm not discrediting the owl theory. Love it. That's obviously, why I wore this, but that could kind of explain for that.
You don't have to apologize. Yeah, we love critical thinking. And look, I think that's a very, very good point, especially when they're laying out there for probably a couple hours. Who knows what's on my clothes when I'm laying out there. Like, definitely the neighbor's cat. I know that because I've gotten up and been like, I don't have a cat, but the cat's all over me. Yeah. So no, I think that's great critical thinking for anyone. I see a couple people who are waiting to get on the chat who are like, I'm so nervous. Paige is so smart. Paige is smart. But you see, we love it when people tell us their theories and also like question, maybe the things that we've said at this point, you know these cases better than I do, Paige. So great.
Yeah, nobody's gonna like attack you or make fun of you or anything. I do want to say in defense of the owl theory, one thing that's often pointed out about the owl theory is that because they're the microscopic feathers on the talons, it's less likely that it's some sort of transfer like that, just because typically they don't lose those feathers unless it is some sort of attack. So people say, look, yeah, if it were like a bigger feather, you could see that, like it'd come from a branch or come from whatever. That's sort of the counter argument to it. I'm not an expert on owls. Like, I mean, it's a good point. They were outside. Obviously, the owls are outside. That could account for what you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean,
agree.
Brett and I will tell you that we spent time with an owl this past weekend because I invited an owl to my house for my son's birthday. And that owl we learned nothing except that owl was crazy. Like, man, he wanted to get away. And it was really funny because every time the owl flapped, all the kids screamed. And I was like, you don't even know. You should be screaming way harder if you knew what it was capable of.
It was a barred owl too. So
yeah, there you go.
I was looking very closely at it to make sure it didn't. So anyways.
Well, great. That's pretty much it. I don't want to take up too much time. I had some other fun questions, but I'll let everyone else hop on. And it was so great to chat with you guys.
Thanks for taking notes, by the way. I love that you take notes.
That's awesome.
Oh, well,
we're going to try and do this more often too.
Just a brain fart, you know, like I just assumed that it would be something that I would want. I'd ask you at CrimeCon, and I got there and I was just like, there's too much going on. So I didn't ask any of the questions that I wanted to ask. So this is good timing. I did hash it out a little bit over Maura Murray with Brett, and that was fun.
I heard about that. I heard you got some good theories. Way to go.
All right. Well, you guys have a good night. Do I excuse myself, or how does this work?
Well, I'll remove you. I don't know if that.
I can leave.
Hopefully, it doesn't like ban you.
You don't need to remove me.
Leave quietly, Paige.
Thanks, Paige. It's good to see you again.
Bye. Okay, Adele, we're gonna try it again. Oh, we still can't hear you. I feel like
someone mentioned maybe Command D. You want to try that real? I don't understand that, or Control D. Control D. I don't know what that does. Someone in the chat had said that. Oh no, Adele, do you want to type your question and we'll answer it?
I would say, but before you do that, in the bottom right-hand corner of your computer, do you see where it's got the little speaker thing? Like if you right-click on that and do sound settings, you should have an option to change your sound settings on your input device. Because what I'm imagining is happening is that your input device is muted on your computer, and that's why it's not working. Do you see what I'm saying? The little speaker in the bottom right-hand corner. If you're using Windows, if you're using if Apple, I don't know.
Right, can you hear me right now? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. I changed my USB. I was changing it around. I was just seeing if. Oh, Adele, I'm sorry.
Okay, Adele, you'll be back in a second. Keep working on it. We're gonna figure it out. All right, Sophie, the moment of truth has arrived.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
He's attached to me.
Hey, bud, how you doing? It's good to see you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you great. Yes.
So I don't have an amazing question about a case, but I wanted to ask about you guys because I think you both are so interesting. So what I wanted to know is, I have a list of them here.
Awesome.
Who did you guys admire the most when you were growing up?
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's a good question. Oh, my goodness. Whew.
Who do I admire the most from growing up?
Yeah.
Huh.
I will say I was one of those kids throughout elementary school who was like attached at the hip with my teachers. Like each year, I remember my kindergarten teacher, my first grade teacher, second grade teacher. And part of that may have been because
Yeah,
I am talking to you, bud.
Yeah.
I am. It's good to see you, bud. And I loved my teachers, and I think part of it was because
I'm trying to tell her I lost my mind.
No, I'm gonna talk. You go play. Go see brother.
That's okay, buddy. I love hearing what you have to say. Thank you for sharing. Was because probably coming from like the immigrant background, there was just not a lot of adults that I could look to who could show me the way in like this, mainstream society. And I just thought my teachers were so awesome. And I've actually gone back to my elementary school and all my teachers were still there and they all remembered me like 30 years later.
That's cool.
And so I say that for all the teachers out there because it wasn't because they did anything. It wasn't like they invented the cure to cancer or whatever. It was the fact that they were there every day for me. And I just looked up so much to my teachers growing up. And it made me want to be a teacher for a very long time, actually, for like small children.
So I'm more boring than Alice. I'm gonna say my grandfather. My grandfather was incredibly smart. Could have done anything. But when he was 12, the family was very poor, rural Alabama, didn't really have anything, cotton farmers. He dropped out of school because his dad needed help basically on the farm. So he dropped out of school when he was 12 to till the earth essentially. And I can remember him telling stories about how when he first did it, like the plow and the mule were so big that he couldn't actually control them. And so, but the mule knew what it was doing. So basically he would just like hang on for dear life and it would drag him around the field, like plowing the field as he's like hanging on to the back. And my parents ended up building like their home in that field. And there was always like this deep sense of, my grandfather gave up everything so that his kids and then his grandkids could have these sort of incredible opportunities. And that was always sort of a driving thing for me in life was I need to like earn it. You know what I mean? Like that was a huge sacrifice on his part and that he did willingly for his family. And so I was always like, I gotta work hard. I can't take what has been given to me for granted. So for me that he was definitely sort of the person I looked up to.
I think you get to ask a question now, Bud. You've been so patient.
What's your question, buddy?
Ask him a question.
Any question.
Any question you want to ask?
We watched zombies.
We did draw some zombies.
Oh, zombies are awesome. I love zombies.
Do you like Halloween?
Uh-huh.
Halloween's my favorite holiday.
What are you going to be for Halloween this year?
A vampire.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Vampire.
That's a good one. Do you already have your costume?
Nope.
Oh, good. Well, I'm excited for you to be a vampire.
Oh, can I ask you guys one more question?
Of course you can.
Absolutely.
Okay. If you guys had free time, and I know that's hard to imagine, but you don't have your kids around and you're not doing this podcast, what are you doing besides sleeping? Like do you, Alice, I know you used to go running. I know you used to run, you said. I know. So I guess, what do you guys do for fun?
Brett, you can go first this time.
I don't. I mean, it's so hard to imagine a world in which the kids aren't around and there's no podcast. I mean, I'm kind of a boring person. Like, I like to read and write and watch movies. So back in the day, before I had kids and a podcast, I mean, I wrote horror stuff a lot. I always liked doing that. And I mean, I love horror. So that's why I love October. So, when I was sort of a bachelor working in a law firm and all I had was a law firm and I'd come home, didn't have anything to do and no time to do it with, what I would do is watch horror movies and write horror stuff. So I guess that's what I would be doing if we weren't doing a podcast.
And I love dancing. I haven't danced in a really long time because it's hard with kids, but it's like shifted as I've gotten older. But I most recently was like, the new thing that I learned was ballroom dancing. New thing as in it was like a decade ago. And I started competing and it was so fun. Like social dancing, going to like dance jams at like midnight in like old beautiful mansions in every city. Like every city has them. I haven't done that in a really long time.
That's
I hope
cool.
one day I can go back to it because like you don't have to be good. That's the best
Right.
part.
My mom did swing dancing for a while.
Oh,
That's awesome.
And
It's
she
that's
just
awesome.
fun.
tried to get us kids to do it with her, and we did not.
There's still time. There's still time.
Rita in the chat says she was a competitive ballroom dancer. So
Rita, you and I
we
got
got some
some
talented people
dancing.
around here.
Yes, that's awesome.
Well, Sophie, thank you for coming on. You
Yes.
did an awesome job, little
Thanks,
Sophie.
I'm so nervous. Cyrus.
There's
You did. Cyrus, hey
nervous
Cyrus.
about. Cyrus, thank you for being on with us.
Yeah,
And
you
Sophie,
did awesome.
fantastic questions. And also just so good to see your face. It's so nice
Yeah,
to put faces to names.
you guys too. Thank you.
Thank
And
you,
I'll
you.
give myself too. You don't have to kick me out.
No.
Okay.
Flash paint.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Bye,
Bye,
buddy.
buddy.
No. Okay, Adele. Adele is now on a different.
Okay, Adele,
computer.
you
We're
can
gonna try
do
her
it.
again. And I just want to say to everybody in the audience, these people have been brave and it's been awesome and it hasn't been scary, so y'all
Yeah.
should join as well, so we can
Yes,
have
please
more
do.
questions.
Hi, Adele.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now, Adele. Yay!
Yay.
Oh,
Adele, thanks for coming back repeatedly.
For your patience. I'm really, really sorry. I feel like an idiot, but
you're not an idiot at
not
all.
We all know of everyone on this chat box, the one who can't figure out their microphone is this girl.
Is Alice. Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to finally meet you virtually. I would have loved to come to CrimeCon, but I'm in New Zealand, so I couldn't
Oh.
make it.
Look, we need a CrimeCon New Zealand. We really do.
You do. Or Australia. Australia's close
Australia
enough.
would
Adele,
work.
You know?
have I told you this? You know, I have family who live in New Zealand and the South
Really?
Island. Yes. So I
South
think
Island
we
is
need
the best.
I think we need to come.
You need to
There you
come. Yeah. I have a couple of general questions.
Fire away.
So I'm coming to America next year. I'm doing a road trip from Houston, Texas to LA. Do you have
Nice.
any must sees apart from the Grand Canyon? That's a pretty much obvious one.
Oh,
In
gosh,
between
I
Houston,
love the
Texas, and
West.
LA.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm from Texas. I lived in Houston. I think there's just so much to see. It depends what you want to see. You want to see aliens, you want to see canyons, you want to see the Big Bend. Grand Canyon, you obviously have to do. You have to watch the sunrise. And if you can hike to the bottom or if you can stay at the bottom, they have like cabins down there. Anything like that that lets you see it with like very few people around, I think is just so magical. I'm a huge fan of the national parks in general. But there's just so many things you could see along the way. In Texas, make sure you stop at all the good barbecue places and have some real good like American barbecue.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so in Texas, I mean, you got to get the brisket, which is not real American barbecue, but that's okay. It's
Real
fine, it's
Texan
good.
barbecue.
I mean, look, you're hitting the Grand Canyon, which is amazing. So I'm weird though. So, I love just vast open spaces. Like the idea of sort of driving through some of the places you're driving through. It's like, make sure you put gas in the car because it's just going to be you in like a long stretch of road. I love growing up in Alabama. Alabama's not the most mountainous place in the world, but it has topography, like there are hills and everything. There aren't just like huge plains. It was always amazing to drive through places like New Mexico and look out in the distance and be able to see like an entire train. That may sound funny, but it's like you can just see for so far that like the entire train is on the train track, traveling down the road or whatever, or down the railroad. The West is beautiful. There's so many beautiful national parks. Whether it's Monument Valley in Arizona or the Grand Canyon, or I don't know how far north I don't know if you're making it into Nevada and Utah and all that stuff. If you are, there's some beautiful stuff. I mean, Utah
if
is
you
a beautiful
can,
state.
I would say, I mean, that's kind of out of the way. It's definitely not as the crow flies, and it's already a long drive. But if you can go up to like Utah, Zion,
Utah's amazing.
Sedona, oh my goodness, the national parks in Utah are just
Bryce Canyon, I think, in
breathtaking.
Utah. Yeah, they're amazing. I mean, it is hard to beat the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon is one of those things where people, oh, it's just a big hole. Like those people have obviously never been there, because when you see it, it's just take your breath away. So that's going to be amazing. But I think there'll be all sorts of like little ghost towns, old mining towns along your route. Stop at all that stuff. I mean, all that's cool. Do all the cool, kitschy, touristy stuff out west, because it's a lot of fun. It really is. There's a reason that people do it, because it's fun, and you're gonna have a great time. And then LA, I love LA personally. Some people don't like LA. There's something about LA that I just love. There's so much to do there, and you should do it all. I don't even know where to start with LA, but I don't know how long you're going to be in Los Angeles. Are you going to San Diego too, or just to Los Angeles?
Just to Los Angeles.
Yeah, I mean, you could spend weeks in LA and never do all the things. There's this one place called Pink's Hot Dogs in LA. If you like hot dogs, I don't know if you're into hot dogs or not, but if you're into hot dogs, they have like the most elaborate, awesome hot dogs that I've ever had. And it's like this 50s style drive-up diner thing. And man, those hot dogs, I hadn't had one of those in over a decade. And I can't talk enough about them. They also have Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles, the original chicken and waffles. Chicken and waffles become like a big thing, but you can't beat Roscoe's. So if you like chicken and you like waffles, you want to put them together. It's fried chicken. Yeah. It's pretty good. So those are my recommendations tend to revolve around food. But I can't help myself.
Yeah. I have another question.
Shoot, fire away.
Do you have any advice for someone who's thinking of starting a podcast?
We just talked to one of our, I don't know if she's still in the chat or not, but Mandy's going to do a podcast. And I think the things that I would say to somebody is, number one, pick something you're passionate about and that you're not going to get sick of talking about. Because if you're going to do it for a long term, podcasting is like everything. When you start off, it's all new and exciting and fun. And then at some point, it kind of becomes kind of like work. When you've done it long enough, it's kind of like work.
This is not work, though.
This is not work. But, when you're having to research and when you've decided, like, I'm going to release an episode every week or every other week, and I'm going to stick to a schedule, the pressure starts coming in. And then when people start listening, and then people have expectations, and, they are very vocal with you about everything you do right and everything you do wrong. And they're telling you where I hated this episode. That was boring. Why'd they do that? Right. So pick something you love that you really want to do it for yourself and nobody else would be my other thing. And, don't do it for the money or the fame or anything else. 'Cause that stuff, basically doesn't really happen. I like to say that Alice and I are pod famous at this point, which means not famous at all.
We're not famous at all. And I would just say this, Adele. If you want to do a podcast at all, just do it. I mean, what are the costs? You could choose later on not to publish it. This could kind of be like a real life journal in real time that you might go back to and end up editing it later on. It could be for a different purpose, but why not? I say this about podcasts and about writing. If you want to do it, just do it. The barriers to entry are so low. It's kind of an awesome thing that you can do with very little risk.
This is such a good point, Alice Mace, because sometimes I think about my favorite thing about the podcast is that my kids will be able to listen to this in 10 or 15, 20, whenever they want to listen to it, years. And it's just this,
the time capsule.
Like I was talking about my grandfather. I wish I had something like this with my grandfather. My grandfather passed away. What do I have? All I have is the memories, right? But it's like a time capsule. And I think I don't really see a whole lot of downside to it. And Alice and I, when we started this, we've said this before, we didn't tell anybody. We didn't tell our friends. We didn't use our real names. We didn't do anything. We basically, it was like, we're just going to put it out there. And if nobody listens to it, we'll just stop. So there really is there's no downside. There really is no downside to it. I mean,
just
even
do
now,
it, Adele. Can't wait to listen. Send it over.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. And I just wanted to say thank you so much. When I first emailed you guys, I wasn't expecting a response, but you guys responded back, and you're doing these live things, and it's just so awesome. I really appreciate it.
I mean, we'll say this again, and we really mean it. Without you guys, we wouldn't still be doing this podcast because it does turn into work at some point in the sense that, like, life gets in the way, And if it weren't for you guys, you are the reason we do this. And we get so, like, it's just life giving. So thank you, Adele, for being a friend, all of you guys.
And I've said this. I mean, I enjoy talking to Alice, of course, but even doing like our recordings live with you guys in the chat room has made it so much more fun, even for me. I mean, just having sort of that, that sort of, it really has elevated it. Like we occasionally will do recordings where you guys aren't around, and it's fun because I get to talk to Alice, but it's not as much fun. So yeah, I mean, thank you guys so much. Y'all are the reason we keep doing it.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, Dale, we're going to come see you at some
See you in
point.
New Zealand sometime.
Yeah.
Let me know when you come to New Zealand.
Thank you for sticking to it.
Yeah, thanks for coming back.
Awesome.
See you soon.
Thank you.
See you soon. All right, Pam, you're about to be up.
Hello, Pam.
Pam,
Hi.
shrouded in darkness.
Oh, I know.
Hi, Pam.
It's okay. I like the mood lighting.
How are y'all, Brett? What are you drinking? I got me one right here.
So I'm doing the knocking on heaven's door I talked about in today's episode we released. That's what I went with tonight. And
Nice.
of course, Topo Chico.
That's
One day
such a
Topo
weird-
Chico is gonna sponsor us because they get a lot of things.
That's such a lawyer drink. I knew it was gonna be something like that because I'm a street cop, so I'm just got my Jim Beam here.
Nice.
There you go. There you go.
Thanks for what you
Nothing
do.
wrong with Jim Beam. Yeah. You
So
keep us
my
employed.
question is, I just have one because Richard Allen with the defense.
Richard Allen.
I mean, I gotta do
So
it.
who is that?
Oh,
Caught up.
give me 3 hours, I'll update everybody. So the defense saying that he kind of just lost his mind conveniently right after those confessions. I'm not with it, obviously. But it's weird that he didn't say anything. Like, I think people forget that it was 5 years from the murders and not just a few weeks or months. You know what I mean? And to lose suddenly all sense of self-preservation after 5 years is different than after you're just newly arrested. It's a new case. It's new media. I mean, he's in Delphi, which there's nothing else to talk about besides these murders. And for 5 years, he didn't say anything, presumably. Do you guys have any thoughts about
So
that
is your-
timing?
So is your question are you questioning why would he confess now, or why would he lose his mind, presumably after confessing?
Right. Well, kind of both, because it lends a little credence to what the defense is saying, that he lost his mind a little bit, like a hair, because
And I mean they've
presumably
added the
he hadn't.
new wrinkle of he's being threatened by Odinist guards.
Right.
And that's another reason he confessed is like added. It's not just that he's being treated like a prisoner of war, he's also being threatened, and that's led to this as well.
But and then if I believe that, then I got to believe the Odinist theory, and there's just not enough bourbon in the world. So,
Well, I'll give you my
what do
theory.
you think?
I'll give you my theory on that. I think you raise a good point, and I think it's a point that I could imagine a defense attorney making. Why now? Oh, so he kept it together all this time, and all of a sudden, so isn't that convenient, right? When he's in jail and he's on the phone, and what a convenient time. Well, I mean, the first thing that I would say about that is, I think they're actually. I mean, I'll just create a scenario, and this may be complete fiction, but I'll just create a scenario. He does this thing, right? He never expects it's going to become what it is. He gets that initial thrill out of it. It's everything his fantasies about doing something like this would be. And then all of a sudden, all of the attention in the world comes on that case. He sees the videos. He sees the sketches. He's hearing the talk around town. Every day he's looking over his shoulder and he's thinking, like, is somebody going to knock on my door? And he's not cracking, but he's under so much pressure, this immense pressure for 5 years. Every day he's under this pressure. And then all of a sudden that the horror that he imagined happens. and there is that knock on the door, and the police arrest him, and they take him away, and they lock him up, and they put him in prison, and he's in solitary confinement, and he's on suicide watch, and all those things, I could imagine that is a scenario where all of that pressure that's been building up over 5 years, it finally spills out, and he just wants to know. And this is sort of how it's been said about the way this went down, my understanding. When he's confessing to his wife, he's wanting to know, is she still going to stand by him even though he did this? That is sort of the context, I think, that people online, and who knows whether they're right, because there's been all sorts of, false information online, but on Reddit and the various chat rooms and everything else about Delphi, this is how they generally describe it, is that that's how the conversation went. And you could imagine him, he's alone, he's in prison, he has nothing, everything's breaking down, and that he just can't help himself, but he has to know, will you stand by me or not? That would be sort of my explanation for why then.
Yeah, I mean, the pressures have really changed once his environment is completely different. When you have control of your environment for those 5 years, you're free to go where you want. You drive your own car, you sleep in your own bed. It's a very different environment than where he is now. And we say this a lot, but I really do. And you see this a lot, I'm sure. Boredom draws out a lot of people. When you're in solitary confinement, I know that's not the first thing people think of when they think of people who sit in prison or jail, but boredom is a huge deal. And that's where a lot of random filings come out. That's where a lot of snitching on each other comes out. That's where a lot of things come out on calls, because when you sit for hours at a time, when there's no today and tomorrow, people tend to say things because there's just nothing else that normally takes up our time. Think about all the things that take up our time, right? The news, this podcast, things I listen to all day, things I read. You don't necessarily have access to all the distractions of life. And coupled with kind of what Brett said, at least I've seen that. I don't know if you've seen that as a beat cop, people doing that, but I've seen this in kind of the more high stress prosecutions. Especially, I think Richard Allen reminds me most of my child pornography defendants. And that's because they've led pretty much a white collar life for the most part. They've never been in trouble. And this is such a different environment for them to all of a sudden kind of be the most hated, not only in the prisons, but in this case, kind of the news, national, international media. It's a type of attention and a type of position in society they've never had to take on before.
Yeah, I was thinking about my experience a little bit, because it seems like after a few years, or even months, but years, people are able to compartmentalize their guilt so that it's not a daily thought for them. And you become like more masterful at that as the time passes, because you have to look at yourself in the mirror. So that's what I'm thinking, like by 5 years or 6 years now, he's definitely either compartmentalized his guilt or convinced himself that he wasn't at fault. And so I was surprised. But if it's like, you're right, it's like the pressure from like isolation, it's like meal to meal, there's nothing else. Maybe he cracked, but that was just kind of one thing that stuck out. Do you guys have time for one more, or?
Sure.
We have all the time in the world, man.
All the time in the world.
Okay, Michael Peterson. It might have been the owl. I understand it might have been an owl, but I think you guys have seen that photograph of his wife, very bloody at the bottom of the stairs. Usually her face is blurred out.
Yes.
Now, I'm with you guys on not taking the tone of someone's voice on a 911 call, because it really only shows you're in distress, whether you're in distress because you killed somebody or you're in distress because somebody was killed and you just found them. But the content of the 911 call, I did kind of fixate on. And he calls the 911 dispatcher and he says, "My wife has fallen down the stairs." And my only issue is that walking up on someone like that with that blood, and if it's later determined to be that they fell down the stairs, I'd be like, okay. But to make that your first assumption, oh, clearly she fell down the stairs after seeing that. I mean, her feet are coated, her legs are coated. I mean, did you guys think of anything odd about that for his just initial assumptions? Oh, clearly she fell down the stairs, because that wouldn't be mine. I'd be looking for the killer trying to run out the house. So.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to say it's not odd. My problem, I don't know. I mean, sometimes maybe I think we discount some of this stuff too much. My problem with the 911 calls is I just don't know what I would say or what I wouldn't say or how I would describe it. You know, would I be trying to tell the police, the 911 operator, what I think happened so that they could respond in the most appropriate way? Like, I just don't know. So, you know, it's one of those things where if he's guilty, it's to me, it's like a backwards looking thing. If he's guilty, then I think you can see how that's really significant. That's probably exactly what he's doing. He's guilty. He's already decided what his excuse is going to be, and he's injecting that into the story as soon as possible. And then I totally get that. But if he's not guilty, then it's just he comes upon her on the bottom of the stairs, and he thinks, "Oh my God, she's falling down the stairs. She's hit her head. She's bleeding all over the place. I need to let the police know." So I think it is one of those things. If I'm literally weighing it, I probably put that in on the side of guilt. Like, you know, if I have to give it some weight, I'm going to give it guilt weight for all the reasons you say. But there are certain things that people really focus on and really think are significant that even in cases like Scott Peterson, you know, people really focus on his interview. I think it was in 2020 and everything he said and exactly how he said it. And I'm just like, I think Scott Peterson's guilty as the day is long, but I just don't know how I would act, you know, in that scenario. So I'm always less likely to put weight on that stuff because of that.
And the one thing I would say, I don't know how we don't know how people would react, but the most innocuous reason is that she fell down the stairs. If you find someone at the bottom of the stairs, whether there's a lot of blood or not, he'd been drinking, remember, it's pretty late, whether he's tired, whether he's not. I know that oftentimes I'll look at a situation and even though I do a true crime podcast, my first thought is always not the criminal action. Even though I've been a prosecutor, I talk about true crime all the time. Like if I see something, my first thought is an accident has happened rather than someone purposely ran someone off the road, for example. And so everyone can react differently, but I wonder if maybe some of that was at play if he's innocent. But I don't know.
So that was kind of a cop out, but that's yeah.
Well, reacting to tone and like phrasing, you're right. It's unknowable why they're phrasing.
I mean, look,
but
I'll say this. If I was the prosecutor in Durham at that time, I would have been all over him, right? Like, you know, I don't have a problem with people they focused in on him from the very beginning. Of course they did. Yeah. He's the obvious suspect.
It would be negligent if he was not the first.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
The problem is, you know, I think that case is so fascinating because he's a weird guy. I don't personally find him to be all that sympathetic. It's interesting because Crime Weekly did it, and I was talking to Stephanie Harlow about this, and she really likes him. Like she I think thinks he probably did it, but really likes him nonetheless. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't like him at all, but I would not have convicted him, right? But if you're the prosecution, you get all, you know, you see the scene, you see the blood, you add in the fact that he's like seeking to have these affairs. You know, and they're not just affairs. It's early 2000s, North Carolina. They're gay affairs, right? Mm-hmm. You add that in. Then you have Dwayne Deaver coming in and saying, look, I've looked at the blood and the forensic evidence tells me that everything he's saying is not true. I totally understand why the prosecution went the way it did. I think they went way too far on certain things. I think the judge absolutely allowed evidence in that he should never have allowed in. And I think even he, in hindsight, has said, yeah, I totally messed that up, right? But that's why that case is so fascinating. If we did that case now, we probably would do like 10 episodes on it because there's so much to talk about. But back then, we were still like trying to keep them short. So we only did, I think, 4. And at the time, it seemed like that was so many episodes.
Well, just a side note, I'm here for the long form 14 episode 20. I'm here for that. I'm 1 vote for that for me. The one and dones are nice, but, you know, the long-term relationship. I love the long-form ones.
That's awesome.
We'll keep doing them if you keep listening.
Absolutely.
Well, look, Pam, thank you for everything you do. You guys don't get thanked enough. Y'all are awesome.
Absolutely.
Love
Pam, I should tell you this. My second child, my middle child, asked very fervently. He's going to be a police officer for Halloween. He made me return his astronaut costume and his fireman costume. He went with police. So you are a hero to at least one little 3-year-old boy.
Oh, well, thank y'all so much for saying that. And I'm a big fan of the podcast, and thanks for doing this live. That's really awesome.
Thank
Thanks,
you. We'll talk to
Pam.
you soon.
Take care.
All right, Mallory. It's time to put down the knitting.
No.
I think
Hi,
Mallory, every
don't
time
put it
she's appeared,
down.
has been knitting.
No, it's beautiful. Wow.
This
love
is
it.
crocheting.
Oh, crochet. Or I don't know
There
anything.
you
You
go.
know, it could be cross stitch for all.
Can
I
I see it?
Sure.
Oh, that's
Oh, wow.
beautiful.
This is my first like Afghan I'm ever making.
Amazing.
So this is exciting. Yeah, my partner came in and he was like, "Hey, my legs are cold." And I was like, "I know how to crochet."
There you go.
So his new
There you go.
office is a little bit colder than his old one. So
You're,
yeah.
you're
I
way more
love
handy than
it.
I
There
am.
you go.
I can't.
Well, no. No. This is the
Yes.
first skill I've ever had. No, like
Oh, that's a
thank
really
you.
good skill, though. That's a productive
Um,
skill.
Well, thank you so much. Guess what? I don't really have a question. I just wanted to come on and say hello because we've never actually met,
Have
but
we
I hang
not?
out with you guys like 3 times a week.
There you
Oh,
go. I feel like we're
we
old
know each other,
friends.
though.
I know, right? I know. Me too. You guys are invited for dinner anytime. I'll send you a
Aw.
Christmas card. If you guys have a PO box, please get a
We need to
PO
get a new one
box.
because
We,
our
like,
last one,
let it
'cause
lapse.
somebody was
Yeah.
supposed
No.
to pay the price for it and they forgot to
I-
or something.
We paid it. They deducted it, and the USPS just took our box away.
Yeah.
What?
So we
Okay,
need to
no.
go
We'll
get a new
pay
one.
for you guys to have a box. So I
no.
can send you a
We can pay
Christmas
for it. We
card.
did pay for it. It just
Yeah,
disappeared.
you'd think a creator of the year could afford a PO box.
I know.
But
It's
Look,
harder than
I'm
you
sitting
think.
here with some diaper boxes as a desk. Okay, we're keeping it real
Yeah.
humble over
We're
here.
not
I feel
that
that so
sophisticated.
much. I feel that so much. Well, I originally jumped on because everybody was so nervous, and I was like, well,
Oh,
I'm in my gym jams and
Jim Jams.
my gym jams. And I was
you're
eating some
here?
ice cream and crocheting, and I was like, guys,
you can do it too.
we're all family here. So and then I was
Exactly.
like, well, I've never actually like introduced myself to y'all. So hello.
Hi, Mallory.
Hello, Mallory.
Hi.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
I adore you guys.
We adore
Seriously
you too.
though, like the last couple years of my life have like not been the easiest thing that's ever happened. And so many days I just put it in my ear holes and I'll crochet, do a puzzle, go on a walk, and it gives me this like outlet where I feel like I'm able to like critically think outside of like being a mom to a toddler. And it's such a beautiful gift. So thank you so much. And the community
such a
that
nice
you've
thing
given
to
us.
say.
Yeah, it's like the
Well,
nicest thing.
truly, like from the bottom of my heart.
Well, you have a
truly.
daughter, right? She's beautiful.
I do.
I know
Isn't she
you-
beautiful? Are
She
you
is.
kidding me?
She's stunning. Like,
Okay,
I mean,
here's the thing. I'm cute and my partner is cute, but we made the cutest kid.
There you go.
I look at her and I'm just like, are you kidding me? Are you joking?
isn't that the best? Isn't that the best?
This is a prank. I can't believe a little kid is so beautiful. It's insane.
Mallory, are you the one who
Yeah.
made the bingo cards? Is that you?
Yeah, that was me.
Okay,
There you
that was
go.
amazing. I
Yeah.
mean, that must have
Okay.
taken a long
Y'all
time.
need
but
to
that
start the
was
bingo
incredible.
cards up again. I feel like
I
bingo
like
cards
those
have fallen
bingo
off a
cards.
little bit. We got to pick that
okay,
up.
I felt kind of awkward because I felt like nobody was doing them, and then I was like, am I being obnoxious about this? Like pushing the bingo cards. And then Daphne, who I think is in the queue, Daphne, hi, I love you. She was like every time asking about the bingo cards. And then I was
Aw.
talking to like Carly and Jason and Leslie and Alana, and they were like, you need to do the bingo cards. I was like, am I being obnoxious about the bingo cards?
Mallory, I'll say this much. Our spouses think the bingo cards are hilarious.
Yeah, I love the bingo
Oh,
cards.
that's so nice. I am hilarious. That's
You
true.
are
You are hilarious.
hilarious.
There you go.
Well, I did think of a question though while I was
Okay.
eating my Bluebell and working up
Oh, wait, what
the
flavor of
solution to a
Bluebell?
cold lap.
I
Okay,
want some
well,
Bluebell.
here I have.
Oh, wow.
Man,
Which
my
kind is it?
lighting is not great in here.
Is that
Chocolate of
This
some
is-
sort.
salted caramel brownie. Now this is not my top pick though.
That's pretty good though.
My partner, who is a sweet baby angel, he's sitting right here. But if I turn the
Hi, sweet
computer,
baby angel.
he would kill me. He has his headphones on. He doesn't know that the rest of the world exists right now. He's a computer programmer and a giant nerd, but like lovely. But also he's in his own world. He just side-eyed me so hard. He's
So
the
obviously
one
he's
that
not
picked-
completely in his own world.
Yeah, you're be careful where you walk or you're gonna be on camera. Okay. So the Bluebell he picked, and it wouldn't be like my ultimate favorite pick, the cookie two-step.
Oh, the cookie
is-
step is good.
So Alice, my Texas
Oh.
girl, I knew that you would get it.
Mallory, did you see what James Avery just came out with? Another Texas treasure from Kerrville, Texas. The
No.
Bluebell charm.
Oh, I saw
What?
that.
The Bluebell. It's a little
are they
pint.
charms or their earrings? What are they?
I don't know. It doesn't matter. I just saw it and I freaked out. But it's a limited edition, Mallory. You go run
Okay.
and get yourself one.
Hear me out. Get the PO box. No reason. No reason.
Get the
But
P.O.
okay,
box.
I think Texas Two Step is gonna melt in the PO box, but I appreciate it because
Can I just say,
I don't get all of the flavors.
my favorite, because I'm a very basic person,
yeah, but
the
nobody asked
homemade
about
vanilla
your favorite, Brett. I was just
is
I'm just
amazing.
kidding.
Homemade vanilla, hard to beat it. I know
If
it's
you
just vanilla,
get
but it's hard to beat.
like a homemade cookie and then the homemade
Mhm.
vanilla on it,
Maybe hot, maybe put it in
Oh.
and smush it
Yeah.
together.
I do
Wow.
have to say, I also have an incredible chocolate chip cookie recipe that is like, okay, so chocolate chip
We
cookies
need to do
are
a
good.
cookbook. We got to do
So-
a cookbook.
No,
No
I want
matter
Mallory.
what-
to
We
make
need a
the cookie
prosecutor
cookie.
cookbook.
Okay.
But we'll
So-
have various people, including Mallory,
Oh, I like
give us
that.
recipes. It'll be a
Oh, I'm into
crowdsourced
it.
cookbook.
I love cooking and baking. And like everybody makes a good chocolate chip cookie. Sure. Like even the bad
No,
chocolate
a
chip
good
cookies are
one.
good.
Tell me about yours.
Okay. I would love to.
Please
no,
tell me
but
about
other
it.
people have legitimate questions. I'll tell you about the cookie real quick. So here's the key. They're medium rare. You gotta leave a medium rare cookies. Okay.
I agree.
So like they're done, but are they?
I agree
you
100%.
have to leave the question mark, are they done? And so when you bite into it, it
Mhm.
just melts. And
I
I
love
do
it.
believe that's because there is enough butter that if you have any kind of heart problem, you're going to need to stay away from the cookie. So
Everybody
I'll
does.
send you the recipe. I'll post it in the gallery.
Oh,
They're
Mallory.
lethal.
Well, you do. I think there are people probably like checking the gallery right now, waiting for that recipe because I will make them tonight. I will make. You know
They-
what?
okay,
I had,
so
a,
the
I had
key-
a
the
tough
key.
day, and I am gonna make me some cookies.
Okay, the
Gonna,
key is
gonna refill on the bourbon here. Oh wow!
good. You
Two
do
different
that,
options.
Brett.
So I got my. You want?
yeah,
You
what-
want to come say hello? No,
What's the
Mrs.
refill?
Brett.
The same thing. Hi, Mrs.
Well, I got the
Brett.
Heaven's Door, and then I have the
Okay.
Berkshire Bourbon Whiskey, which was
Ooh.
given to me by someone who's in the
Nice.
chat currently.
Okay,
But-
I'm gonna say one more thing about the cookies and then tell you I love you again. And then I'm gonna get off here so the other people can ask like real questions. Okay. So, Alice, you can make the cookie dough tonight. That is your free will. I think that's beautiful. I think you should do it. I think you should get a spoon and eat it raw. Here's what you need to do. You need to make the dough. And then you need to wrap it in like
Okay.
saran
Saran
wrap.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm listening.
absolutely. And then you put it in the fridge and you let it chill for 3 hours minimum. Baking
Huh.
is an art. It's an art. It's not
Okay.
a science. People say
Okay.
baking is a science. It's not. It's art. 3 hours minimum.
Okay.
You can eat the dough right off the bat though. Nobody's gonna be mad at
Thank
you for that.
goodness.
Sometimes I just make the dough.
I
Don't tell
mean,
anybody else.
It's
that.
really good.
It's really good. Okay, so let it chill for 3 hours and then take it out while the oven is preheating, but not before and
Okay,
not
okay.
after. Okay.
Okay,
'Cause
right
it's
when I'm
gotta-
pressing,
Yeah, like 350, and then
Okay.
you press start
and then
the
take it out.
dough. Yeah. Yes. Because there's so much butter. There's so much butter.
That it'll
that it-
liquefy.
it'll liquefy.
Okay. I'm tracking you right here.
Yeah. So, and also don't make these like, if you have to go get blood work, the kind where you fast, don't eat this the night before because okay, I did get a phone call from my doctor and she said, Mallory, your bad cholesterol is a little high. Your total cholesterol is fine. And I'm like,
Might have
Brie,
been the
I do
cookies.
know what happened. And I will come back with a better report for you next time. So unfortunately, that is a true story. But otherwise,
That sounds like a great story. And you know what? I have a similar one. I failed my pregnancy glucose test because I ate an entire birthday cake. You know what? It was
just
worth
when
it.
I think that you
Pass the
can't be
second
my
one.
soul sister any harder.
And did I eat that cake with my bare hands? Because it was on the outtakes of one of our episodes. It was a chocolate on chocolate cake, and I was eating it with my hands as Brett called me, and I was like, "You're gonna need to wait for a second. 'Cause I'm
That-
finishing the cake."
When I
Okay, you
listened to
two.
that was poetry.
We're gonna have to have like a
Brett, why
side
don't you see
side
yourself out,
podcast for
actually?
the
Okay.
cooking discussion.
Wait,
Okay.
really quick, Mallory. I'm sorry to hear it's been a tough couple of years, but just hearing you
Yes.
talk for the past couple of minutes, you are a bright light. No one talking to you would even begin to think that anything in your life was difficult. So whatever you're doing, you are rocking it, girl. And thanks for letting us be part of your journey.
I just love you guys so much. And everybody in the chat and in all the groups, please be my friend because I also love you guys so much. And I just love all the friends I've made. So, okay, I really am leaving. I'm going to go post that recipe real quick before I forget though. Okay,
Thanks,
I'll
Mallory.
see myself out. I'll see myself out.
See you soon.
Okay, love you, mean it. Mwah.
Mwah.
Oh my God.
wait.
Julie!
Sorry, Joe, I skipped
I
you.
did again. You sort of warned.
Sorry, we're all about the right on the screen here. Hey, Julie.
So my entire thing is frozen. I don't know if you guys can hear me or not.
We
I
can hear you.
Okay, well I
can hear
can't
you.
see you. Hi,
can.
Julie. Sorry,
Hi,
Joe.
Julie.
Wait 5 minutes, Joe.
Well, I just wanted to start off by saying thank you guys for doing things like this and being so responsive, like in the gallery and answering people's questions. Not a lot of podcasters do that, and I think it's super awesome that you guys do. And it definitely makes, I feel like it makes it like a little bit more interactive. Like you can listen to episodes and then you can have questions and you can actually get answers to them, which is awesome.
Thanks for saying that. Lucky for you guys. Y'all are our friends. We have no other friends.
So I'm going to take it way back because I wasn't in the gallery for JBR. So I'm going to take it back to John Bonet. And my question is, or I guess maybe it's more of a comment, something I don't see a lot is mentioned the fact that there's a ransom note and there's a supposed kidnapping, but her body is left in the house. And like why they would take a half hour to write a ransom note potentially and wipe down batteries and a flashlight and like supposedly get rid of evidence and call the police at 5 something in the morning, but leave her body there.
So you mean why the family would do that, or why the
Right.
potential kidnapper would do that?
No, like I agree with you on the intruder thing. And that's something I don't see talked about or like brought up very much as to like a point to like why it wouldn't be the family.
No, that's a good point because you would think. So basically, that's actually a great point. So if you assume both parents are in on it, you have Patsy writing the note. I think everybody agrees. If anybody wrote the note, it was Patsy, which is weird for me because everybody's frozen, so I can't see you guys. or see myself, so.
We can see you.
So the natural thing would be Patsy's writing the note. John is disposing of the body, right? I mean, that you're absolutely right. If you're going to fake a kidnapping, fake a kidnapping. John takes the body, he puts it in the car, he drives it out. I mean, look, they're in Boulder, Colorado. It is not that far from Boulder, Colorado to the middle of nowhere. I mean, Colorado is one of those amazing states. We talked about the West, where not far at all from the big cities is complete wilderness, mountainous areas where you probably could dump a body and nobody would ever find it. It makes sense. If you were going to do that while she's writing the note, John dumps the body, John comes back and then they call the police. That's
right.
a good
Like
point.
it would
I
still
never really
be,
thought about that.
it would be like a missing persons mystery.
Right,
Potentially,
exactly.
so by this point.
Or they would find the body dumped somewhere, but they would assume that the
Right.
killer had done whatever
Somebody
he
had
wanted to
kidnapped
do.
her.
And, right.
Yep.
No,
Mhm.
that's a great point. It doesn't really make any sense for them to go to all that trouble to fake a kidnapping and then not fake the kidnapping.
Right. And especially like they called the police before 6 a.m. So it's not like anybody was looking for her. It's not like they had anywhere to be. It's the day after Christmas. The kids don't have to be at school.
And she would have been found no matter what because she's in the house, right? Like
Right.
eventually they're not going to leave her body there. So they can't just dispose of it later. They should just dispose of it at that time. And that's a great point because it's the home they live in. Like
Right.
she will be found eventually if they're the ones who put her there.
Mm-hmm.
And let me
That's a
just
great-
say,
that's a
I
good
think
point.
there is a not insignificant chance that we're going to have real answers in this case.
Do you?
Because I think it seems like there's movement now. It seems like it's been shifted over to a cold case unit that's actually interested in looking at it. I think the DNA technology is advancing to a point where you.
Oh, did he freeze for you guys?
Yeah.
Okay, you know what I think is happening? We are in the middle of a really big thunderstorm. I bet it's over his house. You would think that this stuff works, but when he was saying that we were frozen for him, I think he's in the eye of the storm right now. we have pretty big storms around here, and maybe he will come back, maybe not. But I think that's a really, really interesting theory, and I hope we get answers in this case. Brett, I hope he comes back and tells us why he thinks there's going to be a potential break in the case. But I will say, I hope so for the sake of JonBenét. I mean,
Right.
it has turned into, just she is just a little girl. That is all. Oh, hey, Brett, welcome back.
Hey, so I told you it froze. Like,
I was actually saying, is the storm over your house? Because the storm is over mine.
no, like,
Oh.
because not that we weren't happy to have you, Julie, but I clicked on Joe and Julie got added. And then when that happened, I froze and then eventually I got kicked off. So all I was saying was, I think there will be movement in this case. I think it's been moved to a group of people who are going to look at it. DNA evidence, DNA technology has advanced. I am hopeful that this is a case that, assuming our lifetimes are not short, we may learn something of in our lifetimes.
Yeah. I hope so. I think even if the DNA matches to a known suspect, there will still be people who blame her parents. But
I think
No,
that's
I think
right.
that's right.
I think we've
Yeah.
learned that people hang on to their pet theories no matter what in the face of
yeah.
evidence.
And something was pointed out to me by someone who was very close to this case, that the DNA evidence, when they tested the underwear, when they tested the panties that she was wearing, one of the things that's often argued is that it could have been from whoever made it,
Mhm.
but they actually tested the blood droplets and they tested the area around it. There's no DNA around it, but there is the mixed DNA in the blood droplets, which indicates that it is DNA transfer from the assault itself. And that really is just another blow to this theory that the DNA came from whoever made the underwear and not from the intruder. In addition to the fact that it matches what was on a separate piece of clothing. And that's just another piece of evidence that really goes at that.
Oh, I had never heard that.
I had not either, but this person in particular is very knowledgeable. Alice ran away and left me alone with this person.
No, I separately
just-
talked to this person. I separately talked to this person. I had already
Yes.
heard it and wanted you to hear it, Brett.
Okay, well there you go.
All right. Well, I'll let the next person on, but thank you so much. It was good talking to you guys.
Thanks, Julie.
Thanks,
So
Julie.
much.
Bye.
All right, Joe. Your
You're
time
up,
has come.
Joe.
I feel like Joe is always
Ooh.
giving me crap, but
What?
that's
What?
fine.
Joe loves
Whatever.
you. Are you kidding?
Go Big
Brett?
Blue.
You're just
Yes. Yes, go blue right there.
Go
You know,
Blue.
But Brett, I honestly think, I know you said you're not a big NFL fan, but that the Lions should be your NFL team, considering we have all this Bama talent. Like we have
Mm.
Gibbs, we have Jameson Williams, Brian Branch. They're in first place. I mean, it's a great time to jump on the bandwagon.
Look, I always like the Detroit Tigers because of Magnum PI.
right there.
There you go.
Right there.
There
right
you
there.
go. And I loved Magnum PI growing up. Magnum PI. I often talk about the things I watched with my mom when I was sick. Sick out of school. We watched Days of Our Lives and Magnum PI. And Magnum was a huge Detroit Tigers fan, so I always liked Detroit. So therefore, by the theory of, I'm not sure it's not osmosis. It's one of the transitive property. There you go. The Detroit Lions are also one of my favorite teams. So I'm glad to hear that.
Awesome.
Going all the way.
So, absolutely. My question is, and I've had this question ready since April, not like Paige, I didn't take notes, but I've just had it stored away since April 1st. Whose idea was it? Like, Brett, how long did you laugh after coming up with the idea?
I mean,
who actually mixed it, and what was kind of the most craziest email you guys got about it?
I feel like Alice was actually the person who said we should just play the
This was like
song.
a couple years ago, though.
Yeah,
like
it was a couple years ago, so it took us a little while to do it, right? But I mean, look, the 1-star reviews, they're like, "I'll never listen to you again" after you just played the theme song over and over again. Those like made me so happy. Like that was like the ultimate.
So
like
does
I
anyone
did it.
else? I play it on the regular, like
Oh,
in
my
my
kids love
car.
it.
My kids love it because it keeps going on. They don't want to hear my voice; they just want to hear the song.
And my daughter, though, the first time I told Alice this, the first time I played it for her, it was actually my son who wanted to hear it. Like he wanted to hear the song, and so I was like, because the actual show had been playing, he wanted to hear the song again. And I thought, well, I'll just play the song over and over again. So I played it, and my daughter was like, why does it keep going? And I was like, there you go. You're so brilliant. Like you recognize that, like, and I'll just say this to all of you who listened for like 10 minutes without recognizing that. My 4-year-old daughter was like Johnny on the spot. She was like, the song should have ended by now. Why is the song is it still going? But yeah, I mean, I loved it. I mean, the people who
laughed so hard.
Who said, 15 minutes into it, and I still had not realized that it just kept going. That was amazing. It was amazing.
It's just so catchy. And Brett, I have one more question for you, and this is more of an advice question. So I used to be a writer in my old life. I'm a trained journalist, but I always I have this idea for kind of like a true crime, not true crime, but like fiction horror crime story. And like,
I love it.
What is your advice for somebody just like sitting down, because like I can write a news story, that's no problem, but actually sitting down and like fleshing out an idea for a novel and just kind of like, where do you go and what was your process?
So this is what I would tell you to do. Number one, I think that's an awesome way to approach it. I think there's something so cool about turning that sort of journalistic view into a novel. I think you actually could use that. I think that approach could be really, really neat and really interesting, especially if you sort of incorporate that. I mean, I'm imagining sort of you've got your novel and you've got your main characters, but maybe you also have some news stories that you're like including in there. That could be a cool little thing that you do. The most important thing is just come up with an idea. The way I always did it, and everybody's different, and so don't feel like you have to do it this way, but the way I always did it was you come up with an idea and you basically have the story in like 3 or 4 sentences, just as broad as you could imagine. Like, dude does X happens, he does this thing, and it ends up this way. And I would write that out, and I would put it sort of the top of my thing. And then I would start writing, and that would always be there. And it would no longer be at the top. Now it's at the bottom. It's like going down as I'm writing. And I would write the way I did it. And I was a very busy person. I was a lawyer when I wrote all this stuff. I just told myself, I'm going to write 1 page a day. It wasn't even words. It wasn't even, I'm going to do so many words a day. It was just 1 double-spaced page on a Word document a day. That is not that much. Anybody can do that, right? And if you do that, at the end of a year, you'll have 365 pages. And what's going to happen is you're going to end up doing a lot more than that. So you're going to end up finishing it a lot faster. Like I remember the first book I wrote, I did that, and I finished it on July 4th. I started on January 1st, 1 page a day, ended up writing a lot more than 1 page a day, finished on July 4th. That ended up being That Which Should Not Be, which is still my favorite book. if you do that, and what will happen is you will start thinking about it all the time, and it's all you'll ever want to do. And so you end up writing it a lot faster. Do that, stick to that schedule, get it done, have that finished product. And then once you have that, and that's the thing about horror writing, it's not like a lot of stuff people, they'll write like a couple chapters and they'll start pitching it. But in horror, you really need to have the whole book. You need to have it done because it's usually small presses that are going to do it. The big presses don't touch horror. So do that, finish it up, send it to me. We'll talk. We'll get it published.
All right. Sounds great. Guys, I want to thank you so much for doing that. And I'm drinking the only thing you can actually call a Coke. It's Coca-Cola. I mean, that's just
whatever, man.
Nay.
It's pop.
Whatever.
I mean,
if you were
let's
drinking
just-
Pepsi, it'd still be a Coke.
Although I have to say, I do love the Coca-Cola Museum in Atlanta. Man, as a kid, I was so hopped up on Coke.
So I don't know if
Coca-Cola.
Alice did this, but when we did contract class, one of our classes was our professor had cans of Coke, Diet Coke, Sprite, Pepsi, Diet Pepsi, Dr. Pepper. He had them all. And he basically asked, like, people, what do you call this? And everybody had their different answers. And the whole point was when you write a contract and you use words, it actually matters what everyone agrees the words mean, because words, can mean very different things in very different circumstances. And I thought that was like a great way to illustrate how contractual terms could actually be really confusing, even if they're using sort of basic ideas. So anyway,
Joe, you're just a law school exam and you didn't even know.
there you
it.
go, Joe. You didn't even know it.
It's like how a Rhodes Scholar can argue about the definition of is. But,
There you go.
love you guys. Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
See you
Joe.
later.
Chat.
Bye, Joe. All right. Speaking of somebody trained to be a journalist, Jason Blair.
Guys.
How
Jason
are
Blair
you?
joins.
I'm great. I'm wonderful. I just got back from Idaho and Washington. Did I tell you guys what I was doing there? You'll
You know, I
No.
had look at that Topo Chico pulling
Hey
it
there,
out.
Topo.
Topo Chico getting all that free advertising.
So-
you tell me generally you're out there like investigating some sort of
Yes,
cold
a
case.
serial killer case. Yeah, it's a cold case serial killer case. It was actually really cool. I've come to a conclusion about why people tell me things. One, I'm a thinking man. They like thinking men. So I'm having this like meeting with some people who are interested in the case, including one of the victim's family members, and the cold case detective who's leading the investigation shows up. And one of the things I've learned is if you want to find out from a detective what's going on, you just don't ask him a question. Just don't ask. And they ended up unburdening themselves on me. It was really fascinating as somebody who's not as close to it as they are, being able to sort of like step back and pull the emotions out of it. So they ended up giving me a tour of all the scenes and the different things that happened, and we theorized on it, but it was great and it was beautiful. And I hope they solve the case. And I think I'm going to become everyone's mental health counselor by the time it's done. And that's going to be
So
Wow.
are you writing an article on it or?
No, I just want it solved. I just want.
Wow.
Well, it sounds like we need to do this on the podcast.
Yeah. I'll
Is it
tell
too
you.
early?
We kind of know who the guy is.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, kind of know who the guy is. What they basically have in the case right now is mere presence at the disappearance of a 12-year-old girl.
Bob tells me that's not enough. So
Yeah, that's what I hear. But they also have mere presence at the disappearance of 3 20-year-olds in a theater at night.
at some point
Yeah.
it stops being me.
Yeah, it's no
presence.
longer. It's
When
not-
everyone keeps disappearing around you,
Yes,
they're not all being taken at different times.
in a not
You're
so
the
big
asshole, right?
town. I don't know. I mean, kind of in logic, right? Like, people keep disappearing and you don't. What's the common denominator?
Yep.
Anyway, I'll tell y'all all about the case at some point, but it just became a passion for me in the way they were asking me, like, why'd you become interested in this case in Idaho? And I had written, going back to the journalism point, I had read a profile of one of the victims, and I was like, wow, she is spunky, energetic. She tells people what she thinks. She's got a passion for life, wants to be a teacher. And I just thought to myself, wow, this woman is a lot like my mom. And I can't imagine a world where that would be deprived of having someone like my mom. So that's how years ago I became interested in the case. And it's really, it's an interesting one. And I hope I can contribute some positive to it. But first, the real reason I'm on here is I want to thank you guys. You guys are amazing. I love you. I appreciate you both. If you haven't caught on. There might
mutual,
be
Jason.
there might be some crumbs out there. But I was going to ask you about Delphi. I'm just kidding. I'm not talking about that.
He's a funny man, you guys.
Now. Yeah.
So, in the podcasting industry, especially in true crime, there is so much backbiting and backstabbing. And I really appreciate the fact, this is a Jason question, so the beginning of it is not really a question, but I just really appreciate the fact that you guys spend so much time as a fellow podcaster raising all boats up with you. I was on a 2-hour call with Kevin and Anya last night. Not insignificant chunk of that call, this is what happens behind your back, was about our appreciation for how supportive you are of everyone in the community. So that appreciation, it's being talked about and people are talking about it behind your back all the time. We can only give so many 5-star reviews or send you so many notes of appreciation, but just want to let you know it's happening. But more broadly, like you both have
Wait, you can't be so nice to us and not let us thank you back.
Okay.
Well, that's so nice of you to say. And Kevin and Anya are incredible. Like they truly are incredible. They also share, Delphi is their case, but they send us all the filings as soon as they come out, not playing games, not being like, well, you have to go find the filings. You do the same, Jason. And the whole point is this is a small sample of what the entire world, the world feels like it's on fire around us right now at this very moment. And this isn't just the podcast world, right? This is what should be happening in all of our communities. And we learn from you guys, and it keeps going around, and the love just keeps getting bigger, and we're just as much part of it, and we are beneficiaries of it. And thank you for being an example of that, Jason, on social media to people who really don't give it back. And all of you in the chat, all of you in the gallery, all of you who listen and write us similar stories. It's not us. It has nothing to do with us. We just get to benefit being part of a community like that. So thanks, Jason, for saying that.
Yeah, and I want to say, Jason, Silver Linings Handbook, if you guys aren't listening to it, Jason and Anya and Kevin from the Murder Sheet, the thing that I always, to piggyback on Alice, they send us stuff like without us asking. And it's like, it would be so easy to hoard that, to basically be like, I am the source of information, and if you want it, you have to go through me. And this is particularly true of Anya and Kevin, who have access to Indiana case files that are difficult to get. It is hard to get stuff out of Indiana. We've tried. We can't do it, but they have it. And they're like, I didn't even know there were recent filings. And they sent an email like, here's all the recent filings in the case. And it's like, wow, this is very helpful. And I forwarded it to Alice. And they're awesome. They're incredible people. Glad to know that Jason is hooking up with them as well. And I'll just say this, there may be backstabbing and all this other stuff in the true crime community, but I will say with very, very few exceptions, we have found it to be just very uplifting, people working together, wanting to help each other. We did our episode about the award and we talked about this. There were so many, and we didn't even mention them all. I'm sure we missed people. So many people who have helped us as we continue this. And that's one of my favorite things about this community is we just haven't seen the drama that a lot of people point to. Like I said, there are obviously some narrow examples, and I'm not going to talk about that, but generally speaking, it has been so incredibly uplifting. And it's one of the reasons I still enjoy doing this is because I feel like the people involved really they worry about victims. They want victims to get justice. They want the courts to get it right. When they believe that there's a wrongful conviction, it's because they want justice to be done. And I love it.
Yeah, it is. It's been an amazing experience because as somebody who isn't really, I'm a true crime listener more than a true crime podcaster, it was really wild to me to find such a loving community. It was like tripping across the corner and being like, wait a second, hold on. Like there's lots of love over here. And it kind of fits into my question because more broadly, you guys have talked about how originally you got into this. It would be a great way to spend time together, talk about the things that you normally talk, bring that unique perspective of being a prosecutor. But when you were on with me, on your episode with me, you talked about how surprising it was to have built a community and how important the community to us. So I was just wondering, sort of like, now that you've kind of made it to this point, wherever you are right now, by who called it podcast famous, with a lot of listeners, a lot of folks that you're engaged with, sort of imagining years in the future and looking back on your experience in the podcast, like what would you want us as your listeners, other podcasters, your children, anyone to sort of take in from this experience? Easy question, right?
Oh man, Alice, do you have any brilliant insights on that?
Jason, I just got lost in your question because you said it so beautifully. I'm not even kidding. I was just like, keep going. Is the question over?
I mean, yeah, wow. I mean, like I said, we've been so surprised by the whole community aspect itself. I mean, I just never expected it. That was never something I expected. It wasn't something we thought to set up. I just thought people would listen and they'd like it or not like it and, whatever. But just the fact that people, it seems like there are people who are now friends with each other. And I think some of the people in the chat will support this. Friends with each other because of the podcast, that the podcast brought them together. And now they are real, actual friends with real connections. And that just blows my mind. And when this is all over, I just hope that, number one, we were always ourselves. We never faked it, right? This was us. It was always just us. That we were real, that we were honest, and that we tried to sort of bring people together in some way where we could build this kind of community. That's the most important thing to me.
Yeah.
And I'll say so. I think I've told this story before, but it's something that I try to live by. And Jason, this seems to be right, within your wheelhouse. I think I said it on your episode, actually, which is that when I worked on really traumatic cases, representing children who were in abuse and neglect proceedings, really some of the darkest things, and we've talked about this, the cases about children being murdered or abused are my least favorite because it's not the kind of world I want to live in. And when I worked in that capacity, kind of walking into the hurt every single day and having to be there for these kids and seeing what the people closest to them had to do to them, it's very intense vicarious trauma, and you can't do it for very long without burning out unless you have some way to view it. And the way that I was taught to view it was every single day to name out loud, say out loud, not just write it down, not just think about it in your head, but to verbalize a thing of beauty from the day. So no matter how terrible the day has been, to verbalize the thing of beauty for me today is X. And
Alice, let me jump in. That's so funny. So what I did during this whole trip is every place where something bad happened, I went and found something beautiful and took pictures. So some people who are in the chat have been commenting on my photos. Well, if you turn around from any of those places where those pictures came from, something very sad happened, but I wanted to walk away with something beautiful at every place. Sorry.
Oh, Jason, talk about redemption through beauty, right? Beauty, the reason that beauty is beauty, and this is much more philosophical, we can spend all night talking about it, but, Aristotle, I think, said this, beauty is beautiful because it's getting closer to truth. So true things are beautiful. And so it's not just for the sake of beauty. It's not just for, the things that fade away, but true beauty is forever. And true beauty exists because there is truth in the world. And I truly believe that there is truth. And not just what you determine to be truth, but truth exists outside of what I think is true. And that kind of beauty and truth is found in the most unexpected places. And this is going somewhere. This podcast and this community specifically, not the podcast, not the stories we cover, not the legal, concepts that we try to explain. This community has become one of the most unexpected things of beauty that, it's the greatest surprise of my life, I would say. And it's something that I come back to over and over. And when you are able to touch upon something that is a true thing of beauty, I think you are quite literally closer to truth and quite literally closer to God. And those things are not, they're all around us, but we don't always see them. And this community is something that I've been able to see so clearly develop and just be refined. And it's like this beautiful, precious gem that has been refined over time as we've all gotten to know each other. And it's truly stunning to me. That has nothing to do with anything Brett or I have done.
I don't think you give yourself enough credit, but, I understand it takes all of us and it takes the entire group, but it also takes your example. There's a reason why these types of people have gravitated toward your community. And you play an important role in that. And I don't mean to make it bigger or smaller than it really is, but if we didn't have you as models for behavior and for loving and caring about people and being honest and being truthful, I think it would have been hard to find or pull together this group of people. So thanks, guys. That's all I got for now.
Thanks, Jason. Talk to you very soon.
We love you, Jason. You're awesome. Thank you so much. And by the way, those of you, I will be joining Jason soon for his I think it's his Halloween episode.
2 episodes.
2 Halloween episodes.
30th and the 31st.
There you go.
And you guys, you podcasters are just making Brett's dreams come true, because I will only give him 1 Halloween episode a week in October. But y'all are going to fill him up with like 31 episodes. I can feel it.
You're going to be almost Allison too, right? At Ding Dong.
I am. I'm doing so many Halloween episodes. It's amazing. I love it.
It was hilarious. So I recorded a Halloween episode with Allison where she's a guest on my podcast. Then 2 days later, you recorded an episode with her where you're a guest on her podcast. Then I recorded, who was the next one? I recorded with you. And now next week, I'm recording as a guest on Allison's podcast, talking about werewolves and shapeshifters.
There you go. There you go. We're just one big incestuous family. That's what we do.
Richie!
It's Richie Buck.
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you. Of course.
Hey,
Awesome.
Richie Buck, how you doing? As the reindeer
I'm
flies.
wonderful. How are y'all?
We're doing good. Doing
Good to see
good.
y'all. Yeah, no. I'm
So we'd
glad
have
get
2
the gang back
Jasons at the
together.
same time. And I just want to say, when I said, like, when this is all over, my assumption is at some point you guys will all tire of us and move on to something more
Agreed.
interesting. And at that point, we will lay down our arms and move forward with our lives as non-podcasters. But if you guys just want to listen till the end of time, so be it. We'll do it. But I'm just saying.
I'm here for it. Like I said,
Yeah.
y'all are my friends.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My gosh. Like you guys are amazing. You've if anybody hasn't listened to Jason's latest episode, I think he and I said some words that were very dear to our hearts about the two of you and Bob and your support, which goes back to the community talk. We have a child screaming in the background. Hopefully that will get remedied in a minute.
I thought it was my kid, to be honest.
No, it's not yours. It's mine. But no, you guys are great. And I have a couple of little questions if you want me to ask them.
No, fire away.
You get to ask all the questions.
Richie Buck.
Richie.
Richie
Those who
Buck.
don't know,
All right.
and
I
are
have a
listening,
question.
This is a
Please.
wonderful Jason.
My question before you continue, my favorite character in your show, Santa may be a criminal, which if you're not listening to, you should certainly listen to, is Dr. Myra Abernathy.
Yes.
Who plays her? Because she is a natural. I mean, she should be an actress. If she's not already an
great.
actress, she should be an actress.
So
When she
that's-
says Richie, I'm just like, wow, this person's awesome.
Okay, so this is a long short story. So when I was in I studied abroad in London when I was in college, and I fell in love with every English woman that I ever came across. And I was like, I'm going to marry.
Accents are so sexy.
I know. I'm like,
Nobody's
I'm going to
noticed.
marry an English woman. And anyhow, obviously that didn't happen. And then so the person that plays that role is Cherry from Crimepedia, and she is an English lady. And at CrimeCon last year, the season had not started, and she like cornered me, and she's like, "When is Richie going to get a girlfriend?" And I was like, "Well, it's very ambiguous. We don't talk about his relationship status," which was intentional because I didn't want to like give anything away. I wanted to have an opportunity to kind of go that route. She's like, "Well, I think Myra should be his girlfriend." And I was like, "Okay," which is the way the podcast works for me. I take a lot of things from other people and say, how can I make that work in this story? Because that's what life is like. Life is finding how to navigate your way through these different scenarios. And so that's what happened. And Cherry is amazing. And we have the last 3 episodes of the season. She's in 2 of them. But the last episode of the season is very, very, very good. And she's got a big role in the next season. And Into also do in advance for that. And I'll be reaching out to you for your help on writing it as well. But
we can't wait. She's awesome. And so are you.
I appreciate that so much.
Jason, do I get to be the judge? That's the question. I have some bones to pick.
I actually think I have a different character for you.
All right.
That I haven't talked about tonight. I didn't get a chance to talk.
Oh, yeah.
I was busy with stuff. I have an idea, so it's been great. But yeah, no, you guys.
As long as I get to poke Bob about conspiracy theories, I'm good with it.
I'll figure that out. I can totally do that. Okay, so any other? Do you have a question, or do you want me to go?
No, shoot. It's all you.
Okay.
Sorry, that I didn't mean to interrupt. I just love Myra.
No. I love it. No, I appreciate you guys. Okay, so Brett, I got a couple short questions for you. And then Alice, I have probably a longer question for you. And then I have one question that's from somebody else, and then a question for Santa Maybe a Criminal, basically. So, Brett, favorite cryptid or urban legend, or urban legend?
Huh. Favorite cryptid or urban legend? That's hard.
And Alice, you can answer this too. I don't know that you would have. I don't know that you.
I don't know if favorite's the right word. The ones that make me the most scared.
I mean, look,
that
I
could
love
work.
the Loch Ness Monster. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Loch Ness Monster. I feel like the Loch Ness Monster is like the hope that's in all of our souls. That there exists to this day a dinosaur from prehistoric ages. So it's hard for me not to say the Loch Ness Monster is my favorite. You know, as far as urban legends go, I love the classic urban legends. The hook hand on the car, fantastic.
Right.
Probably my favorite. You know, I mean, we did the razor blades and candy for our episodes, which was pretty cool. But I'm gonna go with hook hand. Hook hand is my favorite urban legend, and Loch Ness Monster is my favorite cryptid.
Very good. Alice, do you want to weigh in at all?
No, they all scare me. We all know this about me. We don't need to delve into
I
that.
know. I just
I'm
just want to give you the options. Okay, so Brett, favorite Alabama football player of all time?
Oh god. Oh man, that's so hard. Oh man. Favorite Alabama football player of all time. So when I was a kid, Derek Thomas was dominating. Yeah. You know, I mean, and he kind of the players that are big when you're a kid tend to be the ones. I'll say this. Oh god. So let me think about this for a second. Oh, I can't remember his name. So when I was in 1992, I was 11 years old, and we went to the Sugar Bowl, in New Orleans when Alabama played Miami, and Miami was the great evil of college football. Basically, those of you who don't remember, I mean, Miami in the 80s was this like dark force of evil that was rampaging through college football and no one could stop. And so in 1992, Alabama, exactly. So in 1992, Alabama played Miami, and everybody just thought Miami was going to destroy Alabama. I think it was maybe Cornelius Bennett. I can't remember. Well, anyway, so they did not. Alabama defeated Miami in the Sugar Bowl for the national championship in 1992. It was an amazing game. You should watch it if you get the opportunity. It's on YouTube. And after the game, we were there. Still, to this day, the best football game I've ever been at. After the game, we were there, and we had and somehow we had a pizza. I can't remember why we had a pizza, but we just did. And I can't remember who it was, but one of the Alabama football players came up and was like, "Can I have a slice of pizza?" And I can't remember which one it was, but obviously we gave him a slice of pizza, which I'm pretty sure was a violation of NCAA rules at the time. But that, to me, that was such an incredible moment. So that entire team is going to be at the top of my list. But I think I'm going to say Derek Thomas is my favorite Alabama football player of all time.
Nice. That's great. That's awesome. Okay, so Alice, you have spoke very eloquently and touchingly about your experience as a daughter of immigrants and not being able to, speak English when you entered.
Hey, Jason, can I jump in just real quick? That
Sure.
you guys did on the Ellen Greenberg case was so touching. There's so many other ways you guys could have handled that question, but it was with such love and compassion. It's funny. It's a great episode, but I've listened to it over and over again just to listen to that advice you gave him at the end. So, all right. I'm out.
Yes, very, very good. So I just wondered if there was a moment that I think you felt like an outsider, like in that example. I wonder if you could remember the moment that you felt like you were finally accepted, and like if it was a thing or if it was like, if it was dance, if there was some sort of vehicle that brought you to feel a part of the community.
What an insightful question. It really is. And I say this, and I try to say it loudly now for everyone who needs to hear it. If you ever feel like an insider, you're probably like the one person in the world who feels it. I don't think anyone ever feels fully accepted. And that's partly why this community is so amazing, right? Like, I would be really worried when people would say, but your life looks so perfect. You do all these things. You made it to all these great schools. And I just want to say, I've never felt more out of place than I went to college. I remember I showed up to class and girls were wearing Lilly Pulitzer. I didn't even know how to pronounce Lilly Pulitzer. I didn't know what that was, that it was a brand, that it was something I was supposed to understand and see a pattern and understand that that was a brand that I was supposed to know. I didn't understand that. I didn't understand you were supposed to wear dresses to, football games in the South. And then, so you have 4 years of college, and I thought, oh, of course, now I understand life. But then I show up at Yale, never having been around people with, so many opportunities and means, and people talking about, everything esoterically and academically rather than in real life. And I felt like a fish out of water. And then I began to practice law, and I would show up into the courtroom and be quite literally the only woman who couldn't reach the microphone because I was a foot shorter than everyone else who practiced in the courtroom, and no one would look at me seriously. The list goes on. And the point is not to say, poor me. The point is, we're all outsiders in a way, right? And when you recognize that about every person you interact with, you can't help but come to it with compassion. And so I love my origin story. I love that things didn't come easily. I love that to this day, like, there are English words I cannot think of because I'm like, what is that word? Like, a very simple word, because sometimes my brain just glitches back to my mother tongue. I love all of that because it is a constant reminder of how we need to view the world, how everyone is walking and trying to make the best in their way in this world, and no one has it figured out. And so thanks for that question, but I hope everyone knows that, and that they don't look at our podcast or us or anything like that and think it has come easy or that anyone is now an insider in any shape or form.
And I just want to say something because it's true, and I like to speak the truth. But I hope all of you who are listening to this realize how fortunate you are to listen to Alice talk about these cases. Because Alice is actually one of the foremost minds, legal minds in the country today. And that is 100% true. Like, y'all don't understand how fortunate you are to have someone like Alice talk about true crime. It's one thing to have lawyers talk about it. It's one thing to have prosecutors talk about it. It's an entirely different thing to have someone like Alice talk about it. And I am so blessed to have Alice as a co-host. I mean, she is just, I mean, I cannot express to you how brilliant Alice is. So I hope everyone appreciates that and understands that. We're so lucky to have her. We're so lucky to have her mind applied to these cases. It is a true blessing that we are exposed to.
Stop it.
It's so true, though. I mean,
this is what happens when Brett's like 3 bourbons in.
That's the word on the street. So Brett's right. I mean, you guys are both brilliant. I mean, you really are amazing people who have done amazing things. And I think it's so powerful that you two both have had moments where you felt scorned or as outsiders, or because I think for so many of the people who are listeners, they listen to people like you, or they listen to some of the rest of us, and they're seeing us in a moment where it appears we have things together, but we've all been through those moments. We go through those moments, I'm sure, with parenting and with trying to balance things. And even though, you know, you're on a platform, we have platforms, it doesn't mean that we're not dealing with the same hurt, insecurities, struggles that every other person here. But can we talk about how great Jason is? Because he is in the background that holds everything together. You're like a big ball of sticky love that pulls everyone together. And I just want to say,
was someone waiting?
You.
I'm adding Jill to this conversation.
Oh God! Please add Jill. I'll be fast with my last.
This is Avoidance of Praise by Richie. Go on.
No, well, I appreciate what you said, Jason. But no, I'm just here to not get fined, I guess.
I'll jump in. I'll jump in for Jason. So Jason not only produces his own podcast and helps a bunch of other amazing podcasts be produced. Everything you guys hear, sound editing wise, I mean, he turns them around right away and makes us sound way better than we actually are. And he does it with like the most just kind heart, because a lot of the editing, especially, you know, the way he puts things together is really just art. And yet we say the words, but man, you guys hear how much we stumble over our words, and you would never know it after listening to Jason's editing.
Well, you guys are the best. I love you both. So I have to ask something to Carly real fast.
Okay, shoot.
She says, Brett, when are you going to write a true crime memoir like James Renner or Nick Edwards has done?
You know, we've talked about doing that for a while. We just don't have time, but we would love to do that.
We have like outlines.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. I can help you do that.
Well, we'll have to work
Careful,
on that.
Jason.
Yeah, we know
you do everything well.
So we have Jill here. I don't know if Jill is Jill still with us?
Can you hear us, Jill?
No,
Hi,
Jill. Jill.
Hi, Jill.
We know you're there, Jill. Can't hide.
I'm trying.
Hi.
Oh, there you
Can
are.
you hear me?
Yes,
We can hear you.
Oh, yeah,
We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Okay. So I just gotta say that everything that y'all just said was absolutely true about all of y'all. I believe everything that y'all just said about everybody on the chat.
Jill,
Jill.
let me just
Jill,
say,
even though
it's
you're
such
not-
an honor to meet you at CrimeCon.
I was just
love
gonna
you
say
to
that.
death. You're awesome.
Jill, hugging you at CrimeCon was the best.
Oh, you give the best hugs, Alice. You really
Can't help
do.
myself. I'm sorry.
And I just have to say,
And-
Jill, I love your accent so much. I could just hear you talk all the time.
Agreed.
Well, I love listening to y'all talk, obviously. And now, like, I have imprinted in my brain anything that I see Christmas. I can't help thinking about Jason.
It's working.
Like crazy
It's
how
working.
much the little things you associate with, everybody that you've met. I really enjoyed meeting everybody that I met. Like, there was not a single person that I met at CrimeCon that I was like, I'm staying away from them. No, I thoroughly enjoyed all of them. I came back and I was talking to my family. I'm like, yeah, so and so and this and that and this, and they like, who's that?
There we are.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Well, Jill, it
anyway.
was such an honor to meet you, and thank you so much for everything. And I hope we'll see you in Nashville.
Yes, that was one thing that I wanted to bring up. So I hear that you're apparently gonna karaoke with us in Nashville.
I blame Lily for that rumor.
Okay, so I really, really want you to promise that you're gonna karaoke at least one song with me.
I will karaoke with you and anybody else who wants to karaoke. I am down for karaokeing all night long.
I have a
so
karaoke
excited.
machine in my house, y'all.
Alex,
I
if you do
really,
that
really
karaoke
hope
thing-
that my husband gets to come this time. Jason, the other Jason got to meet him in Austin, but y'all didn't get to meet him because he was at work. But anyways, and him and Alice would go on and on and on about food because he cooks. So, well, I say just Alice. Alice likes to cook. I could tell. But I could
I like to
also tell that you, Brett, are a big foodie.
I love food. I don't like to cook it so much as to eat it, but that's okay.
Well, I wrote in the chat when you said that, when you were talking about different foods, I was like, oh, Brett could almost be Cajun.
I love it.
But anyway, I love how positive everybody is and that I've met and how warm and inviting everybody was. I just really enjoyed, especially, man, Carly. I met her twice and Carly's just so sweet. I love Carly. And I really didn't get to talk to her like I really wanted to at either event. So I'm looking forward to it in Nashville.
You know
Well, we
what? I
love
think
Carly,
this,
too.
This is what you're a fantastic advertisement. Everyone, go to CrimeCon next year. We'll be there, and I think we'll get a code at some point to give you guys a discount. I don't know that we have it yet.
We don't have it yet, but it'll be prosecutors, so keep trying it when you're signing up. We technically just got invited to CrimeCon UK. We have to decide whether we're going to do that.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. That's quite an honor.
Yeah,
Myra
I would like
Abernathy
to
will be
go,
there.
but we'll have to see. Yeah, my there you go. My Abernathy will be there.
We've got to get Kevin and Anya to go. I was talking to them about your experience at CrimeCon, and they were like, "Wow, it wasn't that bad. Sounds like you have a great group." I'm like, "It's a warm, loving group of people." And I reminded them all that smack people talk on Twitter. They don't do it in person. They just won't. So,
Yeah, I mean, we were worried about that.
hugging.
We were worried that there might be some negative reaction, and we didn't see that at all. All right, Jill. Well, it's been awesome to have you. I
Well,
think
it
we're
was,
about to sign off for tonight, but thank you so much for being our last guest.
well, thank y'all for having me. I appreciate it. And I just have one more thing. Brett,
Fire
what do we
away.
have to do to get you to start some kind of history podcast?
Oh man, yeah. I don't. That's a great question. If I could find somebody who wanted me to host a history podcast and was willing to help me out with the research, I would absolutely do it.
I will help you out with whatever you need. Just point me whatever direction. say, Jill, I need this from this and this and this. I'll do whatever. Just tell me what to do.
Well, I'll say this: keep telling your friends, make our podcast even bigger, and eventually I'll be able to leverage that into a history podcast.
Okay, it's a deal. I'm gonna do everything that I can.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jill, so much.
All right, y'all have a great night.
Have a
You
great
too.
night.
Researcher Brett named Madison. I'm sure we could turn it into a full-time job for her.
Well, look, Madison's awesome. I mean, she's
She's
great.
great.
I mean, you've talked to her. I mean, she's really good. She does a fantastic job.
Yes.
We need to do this more often because this. I mean, I realize we're going on 2 hours now, but this has been so uplifting. I feel so
Also, I feel
uplifted.
bad. I still feel so bad that people had like questions they've been waiting to ask for months. But I'm glad that we got no one. Just so you guys know, we got through everyone in the queue. So
We did.
Thank
And I
you
just
for
and I want
everyone
to
who
say to both Jasons, like, you guys, y'all are so great. I mean, it is so difficult if you have never done something like this. The mental strain that it places on you, where just the imposter syndrome, right? Like the notion that, are we really good at this? Are we really doing a good job? I mean, should we be doing this at all? Maybe we should just stop, right? Like that whole thing is such a constant. And both of you throughout this have been such positive influences and just kept us going. And I just appreciate both of you so much. I mean, I'm speaking to you both because you're both on here, though I don't want to limit it to just you two, because so many of you, particularly the people who are on here right now, I know you don't realize it. You do not know how much just your comments and your reviews and your emails and just the little things you do mean to us and really support us in doing this.
And I would add that for any creator that you appreciate, like, you know, my show is smaller, but I get notes from people and it totally energizes me to do things and to go on other shows like Jason's show, to share whatever I have to offer as well. And so, like, I mean, I think, like, be on the nice list. Kindness is really, really important because, as Alice said earlier, like, we're in a time where, like, everything is chaos, but what can bring us all together is community. And I appreciate, Brett and Alice, you guys have a platform that has spearheaded those friendships like you're talking about and created a community that I feel very safe in. And I think a lot of people feel very safe in. And I think right now that's really, really important.
Jason, that's a great word for it, because there are not a lot of places in, I think, a lot of our lives that feel safe. And this really feels like one. And yeah, definitely to all the listeners, I know you guys think Brett and Alice are so busy, or you think other creators are so busy. I'll get messages that often say, I know you're so busy and you won't have time to read this. I read every word of those messages and they touch my heart. And to Brett's point, like, I know podcasting may seem a little simpler than it is, but it would be easy to give up. And those notes were, I sort of feel like I think I told you this, Jason, if I just touch one person a week, then it's worth it for me. So that one note does matter. And I don't know. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you for the podcast, you as human beings. Glad I met you. I would be friends with all of you if you didn't run a podcast. I'm looking forward to our friendship in the future. And, you know, I think you've changed my life in a really positive way. So you don't often get to say that to people. So I really appreciate it.
And if I could just echo one thing too, that I think I said in Jason's note this week, like, we said a thanks at the end of Jason's episode to Brett and Alice and Bob Mata. And I said at the top of that, like, the sentiments that we shared were usually at the ends of things when people are going away. And I think, and I hope that we'll start doing those things at the beginning of things, because it's more important to share those words when people are here. And, you know, I hope you both understand, like, the great care that I take with the responsibility I have being on your team, and the the great care that I take representing kindness in the community. And I think we should all just be very, very wary of the way that we operate right now, because it is tenuous, and just try to operate with kindness. So
I think there is nothing better that we could say than the way you two Jasons have put it. But to kind of wrap up your beautiful words on that is, I think what we've learned through podcasting, through having people listen to us and meeting all of you and getting to make these friendships, is that we don't look at all of you who listen, all of you who are part of our team, who are, part of our lives now. You're not just the masses, right? Every individual matters. And that's why Jason Blair, you said, if I touch just one person this week, it matters. All of your emails matter. You're pouring your lives and your hearts into these notes to us, and they're not falling to the wayside, because every person matters and your thoughts matter. So if you're out there thinking, having any doubts about that, you matter individually. And we see you, and thank you for seeing us and allowing us to be us, because that's such a gift that Brett and I don't have to hide who we are. Everything you hear out of our mouths, maybe Jason can edit it so it sounds like we stutter less, but this is who we are. It's not an act. And it's just such a gift to be able to do this with all of you. So we're not going to sign off yet, but we'll sign off for purposes of the podcast so that Jason doesn't have to create an AI sign off for us, because we forget things all the time. So thank you all. Thank you all for being with us tonight. I'm sorry it took so long for us to finally do another one of these lives, but we're back, baby. And maybe the next time we'll do it on a weekend so people don't have to wake up to go to work tomorrow morning. But until next time, I'm Brett.
I've been waiting for that my entire life.
Did you do that on purpose? Was that on purpose?
I did that on purpose.
It was so deep and meaningful.
No, I didn't do that on purpose. I haven't slept in like 3 days. Well, you're going to have to generate a ChatGPT AI sign off. I wish I could say that was on purpose.
That's the first time you've gotten your own name wrong. I gotta say that. You've gotten my name wrong before, but that's the first time you got your own name wrong.
You're right. You're right about that, because who would get their own name wrong?
I mean, I did once, but that's beside the point.
Oh my God. Oh God, we got to do this again. Get it together. Okay. Whew. I can't do it.
We got this. I'm Alice.
And I'm Scott.
We're just going to leave it at that. We're probably never coming back. This is the end. Okay. I can do this. So Jason doesn't have to create something.
It's okay. I can figure it out.
Until next time, I'm Alice.
And I'm Brett.
And this is the Prosecutor's Legal Briefs.
Well, guys, thank you again.
Thank you guys.
You guys
That's the best.
You're awesome too. Look at what a cool group of people.
It means a lot. You guys are awesome.
The best group.
I'm just looking at the list of names and thinking, like, That's
The
my
greatest
friend.
people.
That's my friend. That's my friend. That's my friend. That's wild. Not many lists I can look at.
9 o'clock Central Time for those of you who wonder. Because, of course, somebody's always like, is that Eastern Time? No. It's never
Always
an Eastern
That was
time.
also one of my.
It's
That was almost
never
one of my
an Eastern time.
questions. Was about the time zones.
And there's another T-shirt.